Hi, my name is Abu Francis. I'm an architect, I'm a software developer, and I'm also teacher both in architecture as well as in computing. Now, one of the most common questions which people ask me is that you're an architect, why are you writing a software? There are already a lot of software which are available. AutoCAD is there, SketchUp, Revit, all kinds of things are there. Why should you write a software? Now, so I thought that I should give you a backdrop on how TAD emerged so that you understand exactly why TAD is needed and why you could consider looking at TAD. Because there are a few people who think that TAD is some kind of a hobbyist activity which some architect did. Maybe if I was explaining this long time back when I just started, maybe it could have been mistaken for a hobbyist activity, but this is 30 years of work, and it's not that I did some work in 1989, which is when the first version of TAD came, and then I did the next work in 2020 during this pandemic. No, TAD has been continuously being worked upon and used and worked upon and used for years together. So this is actually a 30-year-old work. Now, please reflect on this. Every architect is going to grow in his or her office. That's natural, right? And that architect would become competent in some aspect of architecture. That's also natural. That's what happens with architects. That's what usually would happen with architects, right? So there is nothing wrong for an architect who started off pretty young, but now I'm 59 years old. And along the way, my area of investigation and strength was to understand what is the process by which we talk about architecture, what's the representation system which we have to use for architecture. And this was minutely discussed, not just theoretically, but actually used in practice. And over the time, the kind of computer science which I now do is quite top class, I must say. TAD is written in two computer languages. One is called Visual Prolog, which is an AI language, and the second one is Delphi. Delphi provides a user interface, and Prolog provides all the intelligence and the smarts. TAD has got its own internal scripting system for you to start investigating how your design is evolving. Now, to answer this question that why am I duplicating somebody else's work, let me be very frank with you. I ask that question myself. When I get up in the morning, I ask myself, is there somebody else who's doing something which I can ride on top of? Can I map something and then I put my additional concepts on top of it and then take it up? No, it is not there. That came up from very simple practical understanding of what was happening in any architect's office. Frankly, all architects are firefighting and requires a lot of hand holding of how the design evolves, and it's very fragile. Like 80% of the time, a small architect is not really doing designing. That's the honest situation. I'm sure you will agree with me. All the architects listening to this would agree with me. We are fighting with some technicality somewhere, sitting with on some meeting with somebody, chasing some client for our checks, or some bureaucrat in the local government, the municipality. These are the kind of things which we are doing, or we are actually on the construction site handling some immediate problems, because the people over there, many of them are not even literate, and we need to now get that building off the ground. So it's about 10 to 20% of the time that sincere architect is spending in actual designing. And when I started my office way back in 1987, I was about 25 and a half, and I was worried that I may end up doing a bad job being an architect. So because I didn't have other architects joining me, I had only draftsmen, and they did not understand the logic of designing. They knew the logic of graphics. Okay. So I used to give out some sketches, but by the end of the day, when I used to come back, they were only half done because they did not know which was what room, because I forgot to write over there. So that came from that requirement for me to check whatever with designs which are evolving, are they turning out to be right? I mean, am I pointed in the right direction? Because a little difference here and there, I may end up doing a really bad job. And those days, New Bombay, where I am practicing, it was the largest city in the world. There was construction all around, plenty of job, and lot of unprofessionalism, because a lot of people who came in did not come because of professionalism. They came in because of avarice, right? I mean, we all know that this is what happens in a developing country. So it started like that, but over 30 years, there's a whole lot of work. It is no longer a hobbyist activity. It is a very serious kind of software, and it really occupies a different niche from any drafting software. So don't think that TAD is AutoCAD, or I'm throwing out AutoCAD, or it is like SketchUp, or it is like anything else. No, TAD is a different software which helps you right from very early stages of designing, and then later on when you flesh it out, you can always export it to DXF and then ask some draftsmen to do out the final detailing. And believe me, that will really be much more faster than doing it purely in a drafting software, because all the design decisions were all taken properly and all well managed. So when people hear about TAD, many times what they do is that they'll say, oh, okay, this seems pretty interesting. I know somebody in my office who's good at computers. I'll ask him to go and take a look at it. That's exactly the wrong thing to do, because TAD is actually meant for the people who take design decisions. Okay, it's for people who don't have time. If you look at TAD, you'll be surprised at the minimalistic interface. It does not really tax you. It's very easy to understand this. Excepting that, like, if you try to compare it with AutoCAD and SketchUp and all those things, you'll find that it doesn't work at all like that, and then you may get confused. Instead, you let TAD help you with your designing, not with your drafting, and you'll find that you can get all the advantages which I had. Like, for example, in New Bombay, the situation was these builders used to participate in auctioning of the leases of plots of lands. The government here, the local government here called CIDCO, they never sold the land. They used to hold auctions for the parcels of land which they had planned out in the city. And these builders will jump at these auctions, and then they'll bid, and then they will bid based on what kind of project can come up over there. So to give them some guidance of how much area that will be available for them to sell, they used to go to the architect to find out what could be the possibilities. So most architects will come up with just one or two alternatives. But when builders used to approach my office, I used to give 20 alternatives to solve their problems. And that way of managing a design is actually the right method for an architect to ensure that you have the best possible solution for whatever that particular project needs. So if you look at really established offices, from what I hear about Norman Foster's office, for example, I heard that when he gets a project, he gets 3 or 4 different teams in his office who don't talk amongst themselves, and each team works out their own alternative, and at the end of it there is a jury, like what happens in architecture colleges, where the jury decides of all those 4 alternatives which were fleshed out, which is the one which needs to be selected up for further detailing and then later on construction. And that form of logic and that form of reasoning is called abductive logic. And it's nothing rocket science or anything. It's not something which we have to get frightened about, but this is something which designers really need to do. And what that does is that it helps you flesh out that abductive logic. So when you do a project in TAD, you will say, okay, I think I can use this approach to work out a design, and that quickly goes in one direction. Then you'll say, okay, I'll use this approach to work out the same design but doing something else, and then you get another set of alternative there, and so on and so forth. So this ends up with all those rich alternatives from which you can choose, and that is where really you can take full advantage of TAD. Okay, now if you think that abductive logic is some highfalutin thing which nobody really uses, it's not so. Maybe I've given a label to it, but if you look into yourself, I'll give you an example. Say a social worker comes to you and you're a teacher in an architecture college and you are holding a class of 80 people, and that social worker is your friend, and she comes into your classroom and she says that I have such and such requirement, can you spare one student for me? Now you're not going to sit down and say, okay, here is one student, go take that. You're going to see what are the requirements of that social worker, your friend, and then in your mind's eye you will start imagining that 80 students over there, and you will see who's the best fit for that particular task or whatever that activity which your friend wanted a help in, right? That is called abductive logic, that you choose among the best possible fit answers and then choose that and then give it as a way to sit down to do a reasonable good job for your friend. Doctors do this all the time. They use a term called differential diagnosis. That's the term which they use. When a patient comes to them with a set of symptoms, they're not going to take the first illness which meets those symptoms and say, okay, this person suffers from that illness. No. What they will do is that in their mind's eye, they keep a set of all the possible illnesses which could have the same type of symptoms which the patient is narrating, and the doctor examines more details about that particular patient and then starts eliminating the one which doesn't fit. Finally, what does fit is the one which that particular doctor would zero in on. However, many times architects tend to work only on one particular alternative and then go and freeze that, and that is probably not the right thing to do. Many times it may not be the right thing to do. It's relying heavily on the capabilities of that decision maker who came up with that particular alternative, that particular design. Now, some of you may say that, hold on, I do use abductive logic. I sketch out various different bubble diagrams and then I will choose which is the one which needs to be taken up. I'm not trying to say that you don't do that. What has happened is that the world has become a lot more complex. So when we were taught bubble diagramming and we explored a few alternatives at the bubble diagramming stage, those days in some situation maybe that much abductive logic is good enough, but the situation has become really very complicated. Architects are at the leading edge of creating a lot of problems in the world, right? I mean, global warming, ecological problem, toxicity in the environment, whatever you want to talk about. We are one of the first people who may have influenced that situation. So when you are sitting down and working out an alternative, the need of the day is to work through to a fair amount of depth and then choose whatever which you want to do, which you will finally get built. If you did only at the bubble diagramming stage and thought that that is the only place where you have to do the abductive logic, that has stopped becoming relevant for a long time. For quite some time actually. The other major reason for TAD is that TAD talks about the linguistics issues in the way we talk about architecture. So far we spoke about architecture only in terms of drawings, okay, and think that that is good enough. But I'll give you another topic, or I think I made a few videos about that. The core strength of TAD is that when you flesh out a design inside TAD, the linguistic capability of figuring out what parts are where, they are always available all the time. So you can actually continuously analyze that particular project or that alternative the way you want it, whether it's for energy, whether it's for quantities, whether it's for municipal calculation, whether it is for whatever which may come up in your abductive reasoning, whatever criteria which your clients or your project has thrown on you. TAD has the method to really pick up that and then work on that, and you can analyze it. TAD has got extensive programming capability. It's got its own scripting language inside, which is quite easy to understand. But recently, because of the pandemic, I took this last few months and made it a lot more elaborate. So now today, TAD can be extended with any of the standard programming languages, like you can write code in Python or PHP or JavaScript or Lua and C++, C#, and then extend your capabilities of whatever you've modeled in TAD. So there's a whole lot of things which TAD does. It is not really to be looked upon as a hobbyist work or anything. There's a fair amount of very deep computer science in it. Don't go by my frazzled hair and all. That's because in the pandemic I didn't go to the barber. I was actually sitting down and taking the time to really give some really amazing smarts in TAD. I don't want this to sound like a marketing spiel or anything. I am really grateful that now over 4,000 people are trying out TAD at various different locations in the world. I hope you also would do that. TAD can also be used by non-architects, frankly, and there are a few non-architects who are looking at TAD, because the concepts are pretty simple for you to flesh out a design. And what these non-architects could do is, because they may not know the technical details, is that they can set the design criteria in the right direction and then hand over the rest of the work to a regular architect for them to carry on further. So this is the overview which I thought I should give. The last two videos was literally practical hands-on. I'll go back to the hands-on video very soon, and you'll get to know a lot more nuances and how you can use TAD very, very productively. But I thought I should give an interlude and talk about take a step back and answer this question: why TAD? Why did an architect write TAD, and how do I start using it? So if I summarize it, if you're an architect listening to this, please do not give this over to somebody else in your office to work on, and then they will tell you. If you're bothered about your architecture, you should be the one who should start looking at using TAD. Okay, because it really will engage you only for a short duration, which was my situation in my office, right? I've done pretty complex works and I've done pretty simple works also. I was architect for Konkan Railway. I did all their non-railway projects, like the headquarters, staff colony, and so on and so forth. So there is a fair amount of demand which happened on the kind of projects which happened in TAD. And it's not something which is, somebody wrote something little bit here and there and then just say, okay, let's start using it. I'm grateful to all who have supported TAD, and I hope this community will grow, and we'll all really sit down and talk about our buildings in a very responsible manner, right from this early stages of design all the way to construction, and even later on for usage. In one of the forthcoming videos, I'll show how architects can make money by using the data for various activities which may happen in that particular building of yours. But let me not jump ahead right now. As it is, I think I spent a fair amount of time explaining all this. So thank you very much. I'm really grateful. I hope all of you are safe in this pandemic, and I hope you're all using this time available very creatively. Thank you once again.